Hello friends, it's Cassandra, and today I have a little story, a little teaching moment, a little bit of everything. So last month I had to make sure it was last month. Last month in September, I went on a trip to the American Christian Fiction Writers Conference. And it was in Missouri. It was a good time. I learned a lot, and I had to fly there from California because I visited my sister in California before I went to Missouri. So anyway, I needed an Uber from my airport to my hotel. And so this was my first time ever in an Uber. I was a little nervous, but it was okay. The guy, we struck up a conversation. I told him I was there for a writers' conference. I wrote Christian fantasy novels. I was writing one. And he said, "Oh, do you have a business card?" And I said yes, so I gave him my card. And he looked at it, and on my card, it has my slogan, "Growing Together to Live Like Christ." And he repeated that to himself a couple of times. And then he was like, "Okay, I have a question for you." And I said, "Okay." And he says, "Why does it say to live like Christ and not to be the Christ?" And my heart started pounding, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my my moment to share the gospel. But I was not prepared, even though the Bible tells us to be prepared at all times, to be a witness. And I was like, okay, I'll just do my best. And I said, well, there's only one Christ. And he said, well, everyone thinks, Christ is just Jesus' last name, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. And he says, Christ is a title. That means anointed one. And I said, yes, it is. I knew this. I didn't say that I knew it already, but I agreed with him. Yes, it's just a title. That means anointed one. And then he kind of backtracked because we were about at my hotel. We were a minute away. And he was like, maybe now isn't the time to get into this. And he just gave me a book to read. He didn't give me the book, but he told me the book title and stuff. And he was like, I think you should read it. I think you'd find it very interesting. Just read it with an open mind, blah, blah, blah. I did write it down. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. What I wish I would have been able to tell him is this. So Christ is Jesus, and Jesus is the Christ. We don't believe as Christians in more than one Christ. There is one Christ. And it means anointed one. Jesus is the anointed one of God. He is the only one that is the anointed one. And we give him this title to show how holy he is, how precious he is to us. And he is so holy and so above us that no one else gets to have this title. Now, the word Christians is interesting because it means little Christ. So in a way, you could make the argument that all Christians are little Christs because that's literally what the word means. But notice we're little Christ. We are reflections of Jesus Christ. We are not the Christ ourselves because we could never accomplish what Jesus accomplished on the cross, taking on the sin of the world. We could never accomplish what he accomplished by rising from the dead and conquering sin, death, and the power of the devil. We could not do what Jesus did. And so we don't get to have the title of Christ. Only Jesus does. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that's helpful if you ever run into this argument, because this is not the first time that I heard this argument that we should all be called Christ and we are all the Christ, and we're not. Only Jesus is the Christ. So if you have further questions about how to handle this conversation, further arguments you've heard for why people think we should all be the Christ, put it down in the comments below or send me an email, cassandraspocket@gmail.com. And I will either respond to you in your comment or I will make a follow-up video to further address this situation. But again, I hope it was helpful. Alfie's yelling at me. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you next month for another video. Bye.